Welcome to Pass I On, the podcast with Dr. Shawn M. Nicholson, entrepreneur, author, and thought leader. In each episode, Dr. Shawn takes you on a profound exploration, guiding you to activate your passion, unlock your potential, and discover your true purpose. This podcast isn't just a collection of words, it's a path towards a life of abundance. Get ready to dive into thought-provoking discussions, engage with expert guests, and tap into Dr. Shawn's unparalleled wisdom. With each episode, you'll be provided building blocks necessary for sustainability and success. Are you ready to embark on this incredible journey of self-discovery and transformation? Well, get your pad and pen and text a friend. Pass I On with Dr. Shawn is on in 3, 2, 1. Dr. Shawn, take it away.
Welcome to another episode. We're back, Pass I On, the podcast with Dr. Shawn M. Nicholson. Listen, today we're diving into this topic that we started on last week, and I'm just excited about it. It's all about leading different. And listen, as your host, it is my job to make sure that I intentionally share this information with each one of you that is listening, that is watching to this podcast. I'm excited about the information that we have to share. And we're talking about leading different, disruptive leadership. In today's episode, it's about mindset, the leader's inner blueprint. Mindset, the leader's inner blueprint. Now, on last week, we talked about the theme for this particular podcast series, which is Lead Different, the 5M blueprint for disruptive leadership. And in episode 1, I was introducing you to the concept of disruptive leadership, this radical, purpose-centered approach to leading that breaks free from the outdated norms and different power plays that exist. But let's be clear, disruptive leadership isn't about being reckless. No, it's not about being reckless. It's about it, and you know what? It's not only is it not about being reckless, it's not about breaking rules just to prove a point. It's about breaking patterns that no longer serve people or purpose. It's leadership that now can prioritize people over process, mission over maintenance, alignment over appearances. Disruptive leadership refuses to settle for tradition when transformation is required. You see, disruptive leadership says this: we don't just need new strategies, we need a new spirit behind how we lead. You know, it's the posture that challenges what's broken, that activates what's buried, that multiplies what's bold. It's when the leader says, if I have to go first, then I will. If I have to be misunderstood, so be it. If it means I lose comfort by gaining clarity, well, guess what? I choose disruption, because disruption is not the enemy of progress, but rather it's the pathway to it. Now, I introduced you to the 5 M's, and we talked about mindset, mission, market, movement, and multiplication. And for the next 4 weeks, we'll be breaking down each one of these M's. Now, today, we're going to go to the root of all disruption. This is the battlefield. This is where it all originates, and that is mindset. Everything starts with the mindset. So we're going to talk about the leader's inner blueprint. Okay. Now, here's the truth. Before you lead anyone else, you got to lead your own thinking. Before you lead anyone else, you have to lead your own thinking. Now, I remember some time ago sitting in a leadership meeting, and this was earlier. Earlier when I was in the game, if you will. And we were in a room full of seasoned professionals. Now, all through my life, up until probably 10, 15 years ago, I was always the youngest person in the room. I was always the youngest among all of these seasoned veterans in the business world. Okay. And so you basically had to prove yourself. You didn't really have, or I didn't really have a voice, but I had to earn my voice. That's why I had to make sure that I knew my skill, I knew my trade, I knew my what I was talking about, because you couldn't argue with progress. Even though I didn't have the age or the uh, some of the experience behind me, but I had more experience than I had age behind me because I started early. I still had to prove myself. I had to sit in rooms that where people just ignore you because you're not part of a certain clique. People ignore you because you're not you're not vetted enough. People ignore you because you haven't proven yourself. You didn't really have a platform or a voice, right? And so here I am in this room of seasoned professionals, suits, resumes, portfolios, respected titles, and there I was, full of ideas, full of clarity, full of momentum, and yet I said nothing. Not because I didn't know what to say, but it was because I didn't feel like I had permission to say it. Hmm. Now, I had position, but I didn't have permission. Well, at least in my mind, I didn't have permission. There is where the inner battle for me started. And that day, it taught me something that I'll never forget, that your mindset will sabotage your mission if you don't confront it. I'll say that again. Your mindset will sabotage your mission if you do not confront it. Now, I was being silenced in the room or by the room because of all that was around. I was being silenced by my own mental wiring. Okay. You see, mindset isn't about motivation. It's not about positive quotes. It's not about a playlist, and it's not about pushing through. Mindset is architecture. Yes. It's the subconscious blueprint that you build your leadership on. So I ask you this question. What is your default setting? What's your default setting? Let me ask you, what what's coded into your mental default? What's coded into your mental default? Is it fear of failure? Is it perfectionism? Is it the need to be liked or even validated? Is it the belief that if you speak up, you'll mess up? You can read every leadership book on the shelf, but if your mind has not been renewed, your mission will remain restricted. Look, I used to think the greatest limitation on my leadership was access or opportunity or networks or budget. Okay. This is the way that I used to think. But the truth of the matter is, your real leadership ceiling isn't really about your job title, it's your thoughts. What you think determines what you do. And what you believe about yourself will either fuel your leadership or it will frustrate your leadership. Now, here's what I would refer to as the pivot point. Okay. The pivot point for me was that moment in the meeting was a turning point or a pivot point, if I like to look at it. Not because I said something powerful, but because I realized what was holding me back. It wasn't them, it was me. And That was the day that I decided that I would no longer play small in rooms I was designed to speak life into. Yes. Now, as we go into this episode, I want to kind of, let's see, set the stage, all right? Because it's really about having a disruptive mindset, one of clarity, one of confidence, one of courage. So, having this mindset is very essential for this lead different movement, if you will. Now, understand that the internal foundation of all this is momentum. So, if leadership is the house, then mindset is the foundation. And if the foundation is cracked, the whole structure, the entire structure is vulnerable. Now, in this episode, I want to introduce you to what I call the 3 C's of a disruptive mindset. Okay. Now, there are the anchors every high impact, every purpose driven, world shifting leader must hold on to. Okay. The first one is clarity. Clarity. You, as a disruptive leader, must know who you are and what you are called to do. Now, clarity is more than just knowing your strengths. It's more than just knowing your weaknesses, okay? It's having an unshakable understanding of your identity, not your image, your calling, not your career, your truth, not your trends. Because let's be real, confused leaders create chaotic environments. Would you agree with that? Clarity doesn't mean you know everything. It means you're no longer trying to be everything. Clarity silences confusion. So, clarity is the number one C, or the first C, to having a disruptive mindset. The second C is courage. Be willing to do it afraid. Courage does not mean that fear disappears. It doesn't mean that. Courage means I walk forward with trembling knees. All right. I press sin even when I question the timing. I speak even when my voice is shaking. See, if you're willing or waiting until you're not scared to move, you'll be waiting your whole life. See, courage silences hesitation because the only way to build boldness is to walk through the door of obedience. Now, I often share with people that obedience is a funny word, is a funny word, and there is a word inside of a word when in the word obedience. The middle word in obedience is die, DIE. So, in order for me to be obedient to my purpose, obedient to my call, obedient even to my faith, I have to die. So, what does that mean? Anything that does not produce life, it has to die. Fear has to die. Anxiety has to die. Second guessing myself has to die. Doubt has to die. All of these characteristics or byproducts have to die in order for me to be obedient to move forward with the call that I am led or purposed to do. So you have clarity, you have courage. And the third C to developing a disruptive mindset is confidence. You just simply have to trust that what's in you is enough. And so courage isn't arrogance, it's alignment. It's saying, here it is, God gave me this seat, God gave me this strategy, and I don't need to mimic someone else's blueprint. And for those of you that know me, my roots, my faith is in God. That's where my inner power is. That's my higher being. That is the source of my life, the strength of my life. That is where I gain my strength and my faith from. So when I walk into these rooms, I have that confidence. It's not arrogant. Confidence is quiet. Confidence doesn't broadcast, it just builds. Confidence silences the inner critic. It ain't about everybody else out there, but it's about the inner critic that's in myself, that's in you. Because if the enemy, if you will, can talk you out of yourself, he'll never have to worry about you fulfilling your assignment or your destiny. Now, the reason why this matters is because every disruptive leader must master 3 internal shifts. We have to move from confusion to clarity, from fear to courage, from doubt to confidence. Because you can change systems before you can launch programs, before you can influence people. But you got to be willing to disrupt your own default settings. What is your default setting? For years, mine was perfectionism. And I ran across a quote one time that said that perfection is the enemy to progress. We're living in a world that's imperfect. So there's absolutely no way that we can do things that's going to be perfect. That's the first thing. Now, in my spiritual life, if you will, which still overlaps, if you heard me say in the previous episode, I've always been able to intersect ministry and business. And so my anchor is a passage of scripture that's in the Bible, Romans 12:2. And for me, it says it best. It says, be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. Renewing, doing it again and again. So every day, I have to allow my mind to be renewed. I got to hit reset every single day. I got to be reminded. And so this doesn't say to be transformed by my title. It doesn't say to be transformed by my income. It doesn't say to be transformed by my status. It doesn't say to be transformed by my followers, but it is to renew my mind, be transformed by the renewing of my mind, because my mind is the battleground. If your mindset doesn't shift, then your mission can't scale. So, looking at the way that leaders are presently, we're working in old models, old systems, fragmented systems. They're antiquated, they're outdated. And what worked before is not sustainable now. And we need more leaders like yourself to be able to be disruptive in your leadership, to say that, hey, you know what? I'm going to lead different. I'm a disrupt the ordinary. I'm going to build what's next. That's what it means to lead different. All right. Listen, we're going to take a quick break and then we'll be right back with the second half of the Lead Different. And this week's episode is about mindset, understanding mindset, the blueprint. All right, we'll be right back. All right. We're back. We're back. Welcome back. I am Dr. Shawn M. Nicholson, the host of Pass Eye on the podcast. And those of you that are just joining in, we are in our second week, second episode of the Lead Different Leadership Series, the Lead Different Leadership Series. And today we're talking about mindset, the leader's inner blueprint. Now, for those of you that are just joining us, we're talking about disruptive leadership and in this Lead Different series. And today's topic is mindset. And we're learning that the root to all disruption is mindset. And in that, we understand that there's an inner battle. You know, your mindset, if you're not careful, it will sabotage your mission if you don't confront it. And we have to understand what our default settings are. Fear of failure, professionalism or perfectionism, the need to be liked or validated, or the belief that if you speak up, you'll mess up. And we have to constantly renew our mind. And we have to understand what our leadership ceiling is, you know? And once we do that, because really your real leadership ceiling isn't your job title, it's your thoughts, it's how we think. You know, I mentioned previously about my faith and even with scripture. And, you know, I've learned even through my studying that as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. So if I think that that's what it is, that's what it's going to be. And that goes both ways, negative and positive. So we got to be able to renew our mind, understand that our mind is a battleground and we're constantly fighting. And if your mindset doesn't shift, then your mission cannot scale. You got to be able to pivot. Okay. Now, in the second half here, I want to kind of give more perspective of this mindset shift. Okay. Now let's see if we can break this down. I'm gonna give you, all right. So just imagine you just imagine I'm writing on the whiteboard. All right. And I'm making two charts and I have two columns. One is the old mindset. Okay. And then which we understand is outdated. We understand is antiquated. We understand that it's broken. We understand that it's a failed model. Okay. The other column is what I'm suggesting for us to lead different, to have disruptive leadership. And we'll call that column a disruptive reframe. Okay. So we're going to reframe our mindset. Okay. Now, the old mindset says this, because all right, let me break it down. You have five, we would have five critical mindset shifts. Okay. Again, one column is your old mindset, another column is a disruptive reframe. Now, the old mindset says, I have to prove myself. That's what the old mindset says. The disruptive reframe says, I lead from identity, not insecurity. See the difference? How we reframe that? I have to prove myself versus I lead from identity, not insecurity. The old mindset says, I can't fail. The disruptive reframe says, failure is feedback. It's not final, it's temporal. Okay? It's not final. The old mindset says, I'm not ready yet. The disruptive reframe says, preparedness is obedience in motion. I'm getting prepared as I'm moving. It's action. Okay. The old mindset says, what if they don't agree? But the disruptive reframe says, alignment is more powerful than approval. See how that changes perspectives here? Then, lastly, the fifth mindset shift is, and we hear this often, it's already been done. That's the old mindset. But the disruptive reframe says, but not by me, with my voice and my vision. See how we shift that? So I challenge you to write these down, say them out loud. I mean, shoot, teach them to your teams. Repetition creates reformation. Okay. So I'm going to give it to you one more time. Instead of saying I have to prove myself, say I will lead from my identity, not security or not insecurity. Instead of saying I can't fail, say failure is feedback, not final. Instead of saying I'm not ready yet, say preparedness is obedience in motion. Instead of saying what if they don't agree, say alignment is more powerful than approval. And then lastly, it's already done, but not by me, with my voice and my vision. Write them down, say them out loud, teach them. Repetition creates reformation. Another aspect to the mindset is basically sometimes we're challenged to reset. We have to have a mental reset sometimes. So I have a challenge for you. This week, I would like for you to complete this mental reset practice. All right. This is what I need you to do to complete this mental reset practice. So, number one, write down 3 limited beliefs you hold as a leader. Whether you're a pastor, whether you're a politician, whether you're a CEO, executive director, supervisor, foreman, whatever class that you find yourself in, whatever title that you have as a leader, write down 3 limiting beliefs that you hold as a leader. Okay. Second thing is underneath each one, I would like for you to write a destructive truth that reframes it, similar to what I just gave you, the chart that I just gave you. So write 3 limited beliefs that you as a leader hold. Underneath each of those underneath each of those beliefs, write a destructive truth that reframes it. And then lastly, I would like for you to choose one affirmation to say daily for the next 7 days. Now, I believe that repetition is the mother of retention. The more we say it, the more it becomes a habit or becomes a part of us. Okay. So write down 3 limited beliefs that you hold as a leader. Underneath each belief, write a disruptive truth that now reframes it, and then choose one affirmation that you can say on a daily basis for the next 7 days. Well, basically, until you tune back in to Pass Out on the podcast on next Wednesday at 8:30. Now, I'm gonna give you one to get started. All right, here's one to get you started as far as the affirmation is concerned. Um, I am a disruptive leader. I lead with clarity, courage, and confidence, even when I feel unsure. That's mine. I am a disruptive leader. I lead with clarity, courage, confidence, even when I feel unsure. See, leadership isn't about never doubting, it's about not letting the doubt drive. Okay. Now, um, we're about to wrap up. Time moves fast. I tell you, time. They say time flies when you're having fun. And what I would like to do is invite you to follow me. My social media platforms is Dr. Shawn M. Nicholson. You can find us with that handle. Um, we have coaching, we have discovery calls, we have courses, we have books, and I recommend that you purchase my book, Teach Me How to Pivot. That's a book that I feel is fitting to this leadership series. Pivot is an acronym: planning, innovation, vision outweigh threats. It teaches you as a leader, as an individual, that through difficulties, through secession, through um, loss of a loved one, through crisis situations, it is imperative that we develop a pivot mindset. We have to reframe things on how we do it. What worked 20 years ago may not be working now, and we have to be understanding to that. And this book will help you to develop the mindset needed to be able to seek opportunities from the pivot. So when we move, that's action. And as long as we stay still, nothing's going to happen. We have to move. We have to create traction. We have to create momentum. So feel free to purchase that. The link is in the bio. Um, we do summits. You know, there's a plethora of things that we do so that we can help you as a leader. Now, for watching the podcast, there is a gift that I have, and again, the link is in the bio for each one of you to participate in. And it's kind of like a checklist of how we're going to move throughout this lead different movement. This is not a one and done thing. This is a lifestyle here, and I want to be able to equip you with the necessary tools to be able to lead different and disrupt the ordinary. That's the goal here. There's no more status quo. There's no more leading like we used to. There's no more, taking things for granted. We're going in. We're kicking indoors. We're building stuff. I'm not worrying about burning bridges. I'm gonna build new ones. Because we have to take the stand and lead different. That is what I'm committed to do in terms of teaching and training multiple people to be able to do that. We have the Pivot to Passion Academy, where you can take your courses. We just have a great tribe and a great family of leaders that are willing to come alongside of you and to help you and to cheer you on. And so I'm just excited for that opportunity to be able to present that to you. Okay. So those are some of the little housekeeping things. But listen, for the next 4 weeks, well, this is episode 2, so we got 3 more weeks to go. And we're going to be breaking down the 5M framework for disruptive leadership. And I hope you're enjoying yourself. I hope you're enjoying the podcast. I'm excited about it. I think that this is something that is really much needed. Is really much needed because what happens is if we're not careful, we'll not be able to do the things that um, are that we're predestined to do. I said last week in the broadcast or in the podcast that every one of us has a purpose. Every one of us has gifts and talents. The key is understanding what those gifts and talents are, and then allowing yourself to be a good steward over those good gifts and talents so that we can fulfill the purpose, the reason why we're here on earth in the first place. We're not just here just to be here. We have mission, we have purpose, we have destiny that has to be done. And you are equipped with everything that you need in order to accomplish those things. And it's my job to pass on so that I can help you to activate that passion, that potential, and that purpose. I say often that each one of us has passion. All of us do. And we also have unlocked potential. And what the passion does is it fuels us to find out what those unlocked potential is, or what the unlocked potential is, that we can see how it will align with our purpose. And once we do that, we can now live life on purpose, have a purpose driven life. And that's the goal here. Okay. So we want to make sure that everyone is getting everything. I'd like for you to share this podcast with at least one leader, share it with them. Like, comment, subscribe. You can find us on YouTube, which is the preferred platform. You'll be on social media, Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, wherever you get your podcasts at. That's where you can find it. So I want you to take time to do that, to like, comment, and subscribe. Share it with one person in your circle every week that is a leader. They need to hear this. They need to hear this information because this information is life changing. This information is revolutionary. This right here is some information that I personally feel that is going to disrupt leadership as we know it. Okay. Now, the next episode we're going to dive into the second M. All right. We talked about mission, we talked about mindset today. Next episode, we're going to be talking about mission. We're going to unpack how to lead from conviction, how to align with the divine purpose that I was talking about, and how to stand firm when culture pushes back. Yeah. How do we stand firm when culture pushes back? Now, if this episode here served you, if you got something out of it, my ask is to take 30 seconds and text it to someone in your circle who's playing things small because of a small mindset. Now, that's not a dig, that's not a jab, that's just sometimes that's how people are. We put ourselves in small spaces and we think small. So share this to that one person in your circle who you feel is thinking small. Share it with them. Disruption starts when we think different and then we lead different. And I believe that through Pass I On, the podcast, every episode that we share with you is going to be life-changing for each one of you. So until the next time, lead different, disrupt the ordinary, lead with purpose, filled with purpose. That is my request. That is my desire for you because it's time to activate your passion, your potential, and your purpose. I'm Dr. Shawn M. Nicholson. So until next week, remember, passion is the ability to pass I on. All right? Take care. We'll see you next week.
Thank you for tuning in to another captivating episode of Pass I On, the podcast with Dr. Shawn M. Nicholson. As we wrap up this episode, we hope you've learned a lesson you can start living today. Stay tuned for more incredible stories of passion, potential, and purpose in future episodes. If you enjoyed today's conversation, follow us on all social media platforms at Dr. Shawn M. Nicholson. Don't forget to subscribe, and most importantly, share this podcast with at least 5 people in your life. Until next time, remember, passion isn't a secret to be kept. It's the ability to pass I on.